Perek Chav Ches. So we started Parshas Tetzaveh, and we're on page, where is it? 464, thank you. Okay. So we started with, we're on the fourth pasuk. Ve'ata hakrei ve'lecha es Aaron achicha v'zbano vito mitoch b'nei Yisrael lechano li. Aaron Nadav Avihu Elazar Yisamar b'nei Aaron. 464 pasuk, four lines from the bottom. Ve'asisa bigdei kodesh la'Aaron achicha lekavod u'lesiferes. You should make holy garments for Aaron, your brother, and the Torah says for honor, and for how does he translate honor and glory? How does he translate that? For glory and splendor. Okay, you make these fancy clothes for Aaron, your brother. Now, the Torah is going to describe the various garments of Aaron, but the first thing that we have to know here is, why does Aaron need these garments? Aaron needs very fancy garments. The Kohanim themselves wore fancy garments in the Beis Hamikdash. So you get into the first thing is that clothing is what you wear. There's a principle in Yiddishkeit that you'll hear all the time, that achitzonius me'oreres es apnimius. The external has an effect on the internal. The environment around us, environment is essential. I always tell guys that, if you're studying for finals in college, when you're studying for finals, the best thing you could do is put on your most formal garments with heavy street shoes. Because if you're wearing a tank top, shorts, and gym shoes, and you're studying for a test, and somebody comes dribbling a basketball down the hall or walking with the tennis court or some fishing poles, next thing you know, you're out. Right? So if you want to really study, the first thing is you put on street shoes, heavy street shoes, put on boots if you have to, and put on a suit, a tie, and that sort of thing, and go to the library. Right? And that way you won't be tempted to, because what you wear has what we wear has an effect on us. That's one of the reasons why the Haredi uniform, and I've told you many times, the color of your clothing doesn't really matter. The color of your yarmulke doesn't matter as long as it's black. It doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter. What we wear is a uniform, like everybody else. When you want to belong to a group, you wear a uniform. If you're in the army is a uniform. The whole idea of a uniform is that to a certain extent, we're all the sense that we're all on a team. I belong to this team. People ask, why do you dress the way you dress? Because I have a team. I belong to a certain team. Why do policemen all dress a certain way? And why do all lawyers wear a three-piece suit you see a lawyer in the airport, you can tell he's got a three-piece suit with a trench coat draped over his arm and the Wall Street Journal underneath, right? And in the other arm, he's got the Sports Illustrated. That's inside the Wall Street Journal, because that's what he's really going to be reading. But the uniform calls for a certain uniform. And so the same way you belong to a certain group, the uniform has an effect on you. When you walk into a home for Shabbos, everybody in the home is dressed smart, what the English call you're dressed smart. Because it creates a certain environment in the home. It creates a certain environment at the table. You're on when you're wearing a tank top and shorts, so you're likely, you behave a certain way. When you're dressed formally, even kids, you should know, kids are very much affected by the environment. You put a little, these little 4-year-old from kids on the Shabbos, he was wearing his suit and his tie. 5 minutes later, the kids, little boys, so it takes them 5 minutes, and within 5 minutes, they look like the theoretical possibility of matter without form. But for 5 minutes, the guy, he looks like a mensch. He looks like, and you feel that you feel a certain way based on how you're dressed. When a woman puts on nice clothing, she feels a certain way. When she's wearing an old sweatshirt, and I know, because you see the women, Erev Pesach, when they're getting ready to clean the house, they're wearing an old sweatshirt, with an old skirt, and they got the tichel, and they look like they're dressed to kill, all right. Anybody who gets in their way gets killed, because they're cleaning the house for Pesach now. They're in a certain mood, and it very much affects you. The clothing affects you. It sounds like a good apple, Itamar. The clothing affects you. right? The room, little children, and you should know, when the house is in disarray, and there's Lego all over the place, and there's toys all over the floor, the kids are out of control. The kids are very much affected by the chaos in the room. It happens. The house is. I'll get to you in a second, Blake. The house gets in a chaotic state. It happens. We're not angry, especially when you got little kids in the house. They're very much affected by that. When there are dishes on the table and sinks, the dishes in the sink, and all that stuff, and it's not. People are affected. Your mood is affected by it. The marketing people take it to the bank, because they know exactly what affects you. When you walk into a supermarket, they know what kind of music gets you to buy more than you really need. Or, there's a certain music gets you to buy dog food. But I don't even have a dog, and why am I buying dog food over here? They got, what's they called? You're hearing this, this music. Yeah, I was actually once in a cab in Israel. And it was funny. I was on the way. It happened twice in a row. Both times it was a Thursday night. I was way to give a talk at a certain seminary. And I'm talking to the cab driver. Once I'm listening to the radio, and I heard what sounded unmistakably like barking sounds, right? And I didn't think much of it. And then the next week again, I was in a cab on the way to the same place. Again, I hear this music and there's barking. And I said to the cab driver, the Israeli cab driver, I said, "What is that?" He said to me, "Who let the dogs out?" Right. So apparently, who let the dogs out? So apparently there was a song. What, you guys aren't familiar with this? Yeah. Oh, you are familiar. Oh, good. Yeah. So you are cultured after all. Okay. Yeah. There you go. So they guys say barking in the song, and I said to him, and he laughed. It was a young guy. We started laughing. This is music. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Right. That's music. Right. It was a lot better than some of the other stuff that I've heard. Oh, let the dog. Whoop, whoop. This is music. Oh, okay. I thought music used. I thought the music involved instruments. Right. No. It involves dogs. Right. So the environment around you, the color. What do you call it? We spoke once in a casino. Right. The tables are all either green or blue. Right, because the tables for gambling, the tables for any gambler, the coloring of the table is either green, right, or some blue, usually green, because it's a very relaxing color. The tables are never a hot red, where you lose your money and then kill the croupier, right? It has to do with it because it creates a mood, and there are no windows and there are no clocks and they're pumping in oxygen, all because of when you go shopping. So it's a certain type of music, right? They're never heavy rap. When you're otherwise people would break all the Coke bottles in the store, right? It's never music that makes you feel like breaking something. It's always very relaxing. Let's take more of this, right? And they pump in smells, and they pump because the environment has an effect on you. And we're very conscious. So the first thing is when you walk into the Beis HaMikdash. So listen, I'll get to you one second, Blake. When you walk into the Beis HaMikdash, so what it meets your eye is a customer in the Beis HaMikdash. You're bringing a korban. You're going to the Beis HaMikdash to daven to get an atonement. What do you meet? First of all, you see the Kohanim looking very, very dignified. They're wearing fancy clothing, and they look very uniform. You ever see a parade with people in uniform? There's something about it that's just very enchanting, that everybody is uniform. It's very, very enchanting. So you see the Kohanim in uniform. B, the Ketores smell affects your nose. Affects your senses. C, the Levium are singing. That affects your ears. All senses are being affected to elicit feelings of tshuva. It's not an accident. It's all creating an environment. And if you stop and think about it, you go into you go into a restaurant, and they have something called ambiance. Ambiance means you pay 35% more than you would if it were without ambiance. Ambiance, there's a certain and the waiter speaks with a French accent, even though he's from Pittsburgh, right? But he speaks with a French accent. Why? It's all to create a certain environment, and we're very much affected by that. And therefore, the Torah says the kavod l'tifares. It's for the benefit of the person wearing it, and it's for the benefit of the people outside. You ever go in to buy glasses? Ladies who sell glasses in an optometry shop, they wear lab coats. Why is this lady wearing a lab coat to show me different frames of glasses? She's wearing a lab coat. She must know what she's doing. It has an effect on you. Cops used to be in New York. A cop, you had to be, I think, 6 feet tall or 6'1" to be a cop. Now you can be 5'3" and a woman. But in the old days, you had to be 6'2", Irish, big. And, when you see a guy in the street, you say, hey, punk. And the people were intimidated by you. There's a reason for that. Nowadays, it's, excuse me, sir. Hey, lady, here, take a mirror, powder your nose, will you? Don't bother me. It has to do with it. It has an effect on you. It has an effect on a person. The environment, and we know that. And that's why we try as Torah Jews to create the proper environment. When you walk into a lot of frum homes, what do you see? What's the first thing that greets your eyes when you walk into these frum homes in Israel? In Bnei Brak, in Yerushalayim, what's the first thing that you see? Books, svarim all over the place. There's svarim all over the place. Silverware is only what they left out on the floor. But the svarim, the Shabbos table, you walk in, it's an environment. The Shabbos table is set with nice dishes. You walk in on a Friday night, it's an environment. I heard once. I'll get to you one second, Blake. Don't worry. No. You raised. Did you have a question?
I did.
Okay. Did you? Yeah. No. I'll get to.
I got the message.
Oh God. Okay. Well, this is part of the play. You're never going to get to ask, by the way. What do you call it? I'll get to you one second. There was this couple goes into a house, and they asked this rabbi. They had to consult a rabbi about something, and so the wife, she looks around. And she sees that the whole living room, everywhere in the living room, there's svarim all over. Svarim on the table, svarim on the shelf, svarim on the chairs. Every surface is covered with svarim. So she finishes talking to this rabbi, and then she says to the rabbi, can I ask you something? Why are there svarim all over the place? So the Rav says to her, I think my wife could answer that question better. He calls in the Rebbitzin. He says, Rebbitzin, why are there svarim all over? She says, well, the pasuk says, Ki hem chayenu. The Torah is our life, right? This is my living room. A living room is for living. The Torah is for living. So there's svarim all over the place. What are you supposed to have in your living room? Fancy couches in an at-home entertainment center. Well, that creates a certain type of environment. When you walk into a library, any public library, there's a certain environment. There's that smell, right? There's a certain that kind of musty smell of old books. And then it's real quiet. And they're like, library. It's usher to talk in the library. And it's got a certain environment because that creates, it's conducive to studying. When you walk into a bar or into a discotheque or one of these places, you expect that, it's going to smell a certain way and there's going to be loud boom, some beat in the background. Right, and people being chayiv kares. That's what you expect to find. Right, it's a certain environment. So the Torah, the first thing is the kavod l'tifaros is in order to enhance the honor of the Beis Hamikdash and the Kohen and the people who see him. You see the Kohen Gadol; it's very, very impressive. Okay, number one. Number two, I'll get to you 1 second. Yeah, go ahead, Blake.
So now.
Yeah.
So now's the time.
You didn't forget by now? Yeah, usually it works. Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so when you're wearing clothes, that affects, if I'm wearing, right now I'm wearing a sweatshirt, it's like kind of, it's not a slob look, but it's not like a...
Well, we call it, what do they call it, casual. Casual,
So
okay.
Casual, does that
Makes you casual.
Makes you casual.
You feel casual.
But then when you wear a suit, you feel dignified,
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah.
Then what's the deeper meaning behind wearing the honored? Like, why?
Good.
Why do we need to feel honored?
Because we want to behave in an honored way. If I'm wearing, if I come into the house and I'm wearing a T-shirt and jeans, so I'm likely to grab something out of the refrigerator, and make a bracha in motion. Kind of just eat in my, you're just kind of in a very casual mood, which is not the way we're meant to behave. We're meant to be dignified people. So if I'm wearing a suit, I'm not going to go grab something, open the refrigerator come in with a couple of packages, you open the refrigerator with your foot, take a bite of something because you're starved, that's right. If you're that you are meant to behave with self-control. Hold for a second, Tamar. The Torah is about self-control. Not robotic. We're not meant to be robots, but we are meant to exercise self-control. My father, Olav Shalom, used to say that if anybody asks you, what is the theme of the Torah? There are many different themes, Hashem and spirituality, this, that, and the other. There's one thread that runs through the Torah from start to finish, and that is self-control. We have to control our speech, control what we eat, control our thoughts, control our eyes, control our ego, control ourself. It's all about self-control. We enjoy life and we're very, very natural people, but it's natural self-control. So we do everything to enhance that self-control. You don't see too many people on a college campus wearing formal clothing, right? You don't see them wearing any clothing, right? But you say, they're certainly not wearing formal clothing, and then you get that kind of college behavior, which is completely and utterly out of control. Whereas when you're in a yeshiva and you look at in a mainstream yeshiva, everybody's wearing white shirts and black pants, or dark blue if they're really risque, right? White shirts, dark pants, so with a jacket for davening in a mainstream yeshiva, everybody's wearing a hat and a jacket. There's a certain sense, there's a certain environment, there's a certain, in Hebrew we call it a little bit of Kovid Rosh. There's a focus in life, as opposed to, come what may type of thing, and we have very much focus on life. That's idea number one. Idea number two, Itamar, go ahead.
Just follow up on his question. When someone wears, what you said about changing the way you dress, also changes the way you act and are perceived, and so on and so forth. When you do it every day, does it really work the same way?
Yeah, it has. Remember, there's certain things that there's.
Get used to it.
You're right. There's certain things that have a subconscious effect on us as well, right? You take off your yarmulke. If you take off your yarmulke, if my yarmulke falls off, and the minute my yarmulke falls off, I put my hand. I feel naked, right? And we may not even be aware because there are a lot of things that affect us subconsciously. We're not even aware of it. There was something called subliminal advertising, which in the old days they had, where in a movie, when you went to a movie theater, they would put in one frame. And one frame would be something like they just have a picture of a box of Milk Duds. And it's moving so fast that you can't possibly realize that you saw it. Yet, next thing you know, everybody's filing out at the end to go buy a box of Milk Duds, which they only have at movie theaters, that special size, which is twice the normal size and 7 times the price. And everybody's in the movie, everybody's buying Milk Duds. And it was so powerful that it's illegal. They made it illegal because they felt that the consumer is at a disadvantage. Subliminal advertising at a disadvantage. Everything that we do, the Telzer Rosh Yeshiva used to compare this to subliminal advertising. When you go at the Pesach's coming up, right? Pesach's coming up. So what do? We have something that symbolizes the bitter suffering of Jewish people. We eat moror. Every time you put on tefillin, do you feel the effect of the tefillin? I don't feel it, but it's having an effect. It's having an effect on us. We don't feel the effect. It's like taking vitamins. There is some sort of effect on us. You don't have to feel every effect. There are a lot of things that we do, we don't feel the effect. You take vitamins, you don't feel the effect, but in the long term, there's an effect. And when we do a mitzvah, you're wrapping tefillin on yourself, somehow we're imbibing Kedusha. The proof is that people who live a Torah lifestyle, and I told you the classic example is that my son was in a yeshiva with 600 males in a dormitory, and not once in 5 years was there a fist fight. Now, what happened? What happened there? What created that self? There's no supervision. There's no I had an algebra teacher when I was in high school who taught in the Chicago public school system. And I was in Skokie Yeshiva. So I remember one day he came in, he was a disciplinarian in a public school. And he came in and he said, "Boys, I'm not in a good mood today. I had to take a gun away from somebody." At Schurz. He was a disciplinarian at Schurz. Then he comes to Skokie Yeshiva, where the worst thing happens is we're shooting spitballs, right? And he comes in, he says he's not in a good mood today because why didn't any of us have guns? Why was there never a fist fight in the Yeshiva? You understand? Something's happening to our neshama. Something's happening. How is it happening? I don't know. I'm not even sure why it's happening. It's clearly having an effect. You never see Jews with a fist fight. Even in the community, I've been living in a community for 40 years. There's never been a fist fight in my community.
I mean, yesterday by Cologne,
Last night we saw.
yeah, there was a Hasidic and a Breslover. They were like banging chairs on each other like crazy.
Okay, we're not. The Torah says don't kill. The Torah says don't kill. That means we're not. Doesn't mean we're incapable. Right. And that stands out, right? That the Hasidic guy and the brother, that stands out. So the Gemara says, from the criticism of the Jewish people, you hear their praise. If I told you that was happening in Harlem, or if I told you that was happening in what's your fancy town there in England? And yeah, if I told you that they were hitting, a couple of guys were hitting each other, a couple of guys were hitting each other with a chair in a bar in Brixton, oh yeah, well, what took them so long? With chairs, usually it's knives. They downgraded. So the fact that you see a couple of frum guys do say, well, wow, I saw a religious man? Sure, you saw a religious man. Yeah. And how come you noticed it? There are other places in the world you wouldn't notice it. A couple of guys had a fist fight, you just walk right past. And Mea Sharm, two people are yelling at each other. Look at those religious Jews. Why? That stands out. That stands out. The answer, the fact that it stands out is our praise. The fact that dog, what's the expression? Dog bites man is not news. Man bites dog is news. Right? Man bites dog is news. Right? So I told you the story. The little lions come to the mother lion. The little lion said to the mother lion, your mommy lion says, guys, listen, I'm done. I'm tired. By the way, lions got the great attitude. Lions have a great attitude. It's the mother lion that does the hunting, right? The mother lion's the hunter. She brings it back. And then the father, the daddy lion is the one who gets to decide who gets the food. She brings in the food. She kills it. It's the mother who does the killing. She does the hunting, and then she brings it back, and he gets to eat it. He gets first. I like that. Right? That's like Kolel, man. Right? The wife works. Husband stays home and learns, right? That's a good attitude, right? That we'll have to. You can learn from everybody. So the mother lion says to the little baby, she says to the baby, listen, guys, I'm done feeding you guys. You're gonna have to fend for yourselves. So they said, well, where do we go for food? She said, you go anywhere you want. You're the library is afraid of lions. You go anywhere you want. So these little lions go running out, scampering off. They go into this little town to go gobble somebody up. And as they walk into town, they see a huge billboard. On this billboard, there's a picture of Samson ripping a lion apart. So they go, they come running, go like, whoa, and they turn around, they go running home, right? Hey, mom, what's up? You told us that everybody's afraid of it. The first thing we see is there's a billboard. She says, sure, that's exactly what that proves my point. If that was happening every day, they certainly wouldn't put it up on a billboard and make an issue out of it. The fact that they put it up on a billboard because that's the exception, not the rule. That proves my point. That's the exception, not the rule. So when if I tell you that a couple of Irish guys got into a fist fight, you'd say, was that before breakfast or after breakfast? It's just bound to happen. If I tell you a couple of Haredi guys got a fist fight, are you serious? Are you serious? Right? If I tell you a couple of guys in my public school, were doing drugs, really? How old were they? 11. If I tell you a Haredi kid was doing drugs, are you serious? Whatever. Why? What happened? That's the praise. That's the expectation. Okay, more. Commentaries say, why is it that Aaron, and so the Emek Dover, one of the classic contemporary commentaries, he says like this, a very interesting idea. The Emek Dover says, why is Aaron singled out to such an extent as the Kohen Gadol? And the answer is, at least the Emek Dover says, Aaron is going to be doing things that are a little different than everybody else. As the spiritual leader of the Jewish people, he's going to be behaving with a certain higher level of asceticism. He's going to be putting limitations on himself, and he's going to be demanding more from himself. And people, when you do something, especially religiously, which is different than everybody else, at a certain point it looks like haughtiness. I am so holy. Look at me. Like, who are you? Who are you to be behaving that way? So, for example, let's say davening Shemona Esrei. So you have somebody davening Shemona Esrei. No, some people daven a little longer, a little shorter, but generally everybody finishes by a certain time. Then you get somebody, the exception, who davens a very, very long Shemona Esrei. Davens long, daven. As well, if you were Rav Shach, or if you were Reb Chaim Kanievsky, who, by the way, davened very quickly, if you were Reb Chaim Kanievsky, I understand why you're davening so long. But exactly, you who were in wherever you were yesterday to see people hitting each other with chairs, right? And all of a sudden today you're Joe Shemona Esrei. For you, that looks like a little bit of presumptuousness on your part. Well, you're not holding at that level. Rav Scheinberg Zatzal used to wear dozens of pairs of tzitzis. Yeah, when you went into Rav Scheinberg, you could barely see you see him standing out looking over the chin. So Rav Scheinberg was wearing all these tzitzis, so he wouldn't tell anybody why he did it. He apparently held every pair of tzitzis as another mitzvah. So a guy once came in and said to him, should I wear a lot of tzitzis? I said, just be normal. This is coming from the man who's wearing the tzitzis. But you see, people look at one thing, that, ooh, Rav Sheinberg wearing tzitzis. Yeah, but Rav Sheinberg also wrote a massive commentary on the Ketzos HaChoshen. So I'll tell you, how come that you don't want to do that? You're on only his tzitzis you're ready to well, first write a commentary on the Ketzos HaChoshen, then we'll talk about your tzitzis. This is a man who learned 24 hours, 24/7, was completely immersed. He never, do you know that Rav Sheinberg never ate food, regular food? All food that he got was leftovers from either a bris or a sudas mitzvah. But that's not all he did. He learned Torah constantly from the time he was 17 years old. He was always learning Torah. So for certain people at a certain level, it's expected. You know, there's a concept of wearing tefillin. Here, this is probably the classic example. There's a concept of wearing tefillin. Theoretically, we should be wearing tefillin all day. Theoretically, we should wear tefillin. The mitzvah of tefillin is all day. Why don't we wear tefillin all day? Because we cannot keep our minds clean. We can't keep our bodies clean. You have to have a clean mind and clean body to wear tefillin. There are great men who wear tefillin all day. There are great big tzaddikim who wear tefillin all day. So if Rav Sheinberg wore tefillin all day, which he did, nobody, well, yeah, he's Rav Sheinberg. But if I walked in wearing tefillin, you're like, who does this guy think he is? You tefillin? Who are you to be wearing tefillin all day? It's in there. There's even the Gemara. It says that one of the Tanoim, he was wearing black shoes or black shoelaces, and the others asked him, "Why are you wearing black?" Black. That wasn't apparently the color. He said, "I'm mourning for Yerushalayim." I said, "Who are you to be? You're not on the level. Are you on the level to mourn for Yerushalayim? What level are you on?" He had to prove that he was on that level. He didn't just walk around doing whatever he was. A hefkervel. Walk around doing whatever you wanted. So when Aaron HaKohen has to be outstanding because he's going to be doing things that people are going to say, wow, that's very, what we'll call very frum. Wow, that's pretty frum, right. And therefore he's wearing those clothing till you mark him out. He is the guy who could be doing it. You can't just do what feels good in Yiddishkeit. Can you imagine an engineer, a guy's building a suspension bridge. And he says, by the way, I think I'm going to put in a few more steel girders here because I like it. Right? And the whole bridge collapses as a result because you put it on. So a person's Yiddishkeit could collapse if it's not balanced. That's what the Torah is teaching over. Keep it balanced. Keep it balanced. Number one. Turn to Pasuk Hey. This is pretty strange. So then the Torah says, Ve'ela begodim asher, bottom of the page. Ve'ela begodim asher yasu, choshen ve'efod u'milk sonas, uksonas tashves v'sefes ve'avneit. Now this pasuk comes up in the Gemara in Shabbos. You know the famous story where the converts come to Hillel and Shammai. Convert me on condition that I only accept the Torah. You teach me the whole Torah on one foot. So one of the converts heard, there was a potential convert, and he heard this pasuk being read. He says, hey, that's some pretty nice clothing. Choshen ve'efod. He said, who gets to wear this clothing? So it said the Kohen Gadol. So he said to Shammai, convert me on condition that you'll make me the Kohen Gadol. So Shammai chased him out. But there's nobody else around you, just you. Convert. I want to join the company as long as I become the president of the company. So Shammai chased him out. So Hillel said, ooh, you want to wear these clothes? You want to go? Okay, listen, if you're already going to go and you're going to be the Kohen Gadol, you have to study the laws of the Kohen Gadol. You have to study the laws. So the guy starts studying the Torah and he sees a pasuk that says, "V'hazor hakorev yumas." A non-Kohen who goes close, who goes into the holy area, dies. He's liable for divine punishment of death. So he said to Hillel, who does this apply to? He says it even applies to Dovid Melech Yisrael. That means to go into where even the king can't go in there. You're not a Kohen, you can't go in there. So he got the message. But that was the pasuk that he saw that attracted him. So these psukim, apparently, we don't know. It was a very, very, very beautiful outfit that he wore. Now, take a look at pasuk Hey on the next page. This runs counter to everything that we understand. So it says that these artisans, Vehem yikchu es hazahav ves hatcheles ves argomen ves salas shatim ves hashesh. They will take who's heim yikchu, the people making these clothing. So the commentaries point out ask why does it say vehem yikchu? They'll take it. They shall take the gold and the tcheles and the argomen. Why does it say they shall take it? Behem yikhu. Why they shall take it. So Chazal say there was no accounting. They didn't have to give an accounting. The Ramban says they didn't have to give an accounting what they took. I mean, there's a big pile of gold, and the designers of the clothing and the people making the Mishkan, they didn't have to give it. There was no accountability. You help yourself to some gold, and you go and you build it. Could you imagine? Can you imagine? Can you imagine that happening? You put out the cash in the government office, right? Help yourself to as much cash as you need, right? We trust you. Right? We trust you, right? So here, there's no accountability. There's no accountability. They'll take what they need, and there's no accountability. Number one. The question is why? Why is there no accountability? I mean, you realize what a level we're talking about over here? There's gold, raw gold. I always wondered about these guys, these miners, gold miners, who are working in the what do you call it? Don't they ever nip any of it? Put some between, huh? 100%. Don't they put some between their toes or something, or under their tongue or something to get? I'm sure they search them and check them. They must have metal detectors or something.
Swallow it and then...
Yeah, somehow they something. Right? So here, v'yikhu, help yourselves. No accountability, no accounting. You don't have to give an account. We don't ask you to seek. I need, what's it called when you file the report? Where the money went. I want to see. There's an official name for it. The ledger, whatever it is. They don't have to file a report where the money went. Just take your gold and make whatever it is you're making. Why? So the Chassam Sofer says that the people where'd they get the money from? Where'd they get the people donated? Okay, now, the Gemara says that when a man goes to measure the wheat in his silo, if you're going to measure the wheat, you have a silo full of wheat. If you count it or you measure it, so then all that's going to be there is what you measure. If you don't measure it, there could be supernaturally more than what you've actually accomplished, more than what you've accumulated.
So don't count your money?
Don't count your money. I don't know if it applies to us or not, but when you do put a count on it, you automatically put a limitation on it. Because the same reason that if you count it, so then in order to make it more than it actually is would require an open miracle. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do open miracles for us. If you don't count it, then it could happen. There's more bracha in something that is not seen. That's why in anything in life that you're involved with, the fewer people that know about it, the better. If it works, you'll tell them afterwards that it worked. If you succeeded, you tell them afterwards. Once you tell people it's public knowledge, people see it, not good. So if Chassam Sofer says, you know why there was no, what's the word, when you audit accountants, an accountant, what's it called? The accountant, the report. There's their fancy.
Tax report?
No, but there's the official number. What's it?
1099?
No, not the form, man. The 1099. The whatever it is, inventory. There's no report on the inventory. Why? Because if they would report it, then the gold that was produced might not be enough. That way the Jewish people gave the gold. Now they could take from the gold, and somehow the gold replenishes itself because it's not officially reported. That's what the Chassam Sofer says. Okay. And somebody had a question. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm thinking about all the corrupt Kohen Gadols who went in and died, for honor. Why would you make the outfit, which is to serve this role, simultaneously the kind of thing which would entice the wrong people?
Okay, because it wasn't meant to entice the wrong people. The Kohanim Gedolim were chosen properly. It was only at the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, where the spiritual level of people had plummeted to begin with, that the Kohanim Gedolim were bribing them. But originally it was Aaron a Kohen, and then it went down, and it was all for the sake of, the first Beis Hamikdash was when they were at the higher level, so then everything worked the way it was supposed to. Yeah, Mir.
This is what about the Meiser, for example, in terms of when a person does...
We have to count. The Bishop in Pirkei Avos says that you don't meiser by estimation, because then you can mess up on either side. It messes up. There's certain things that have to be done properly. Certain things have to be done properly because there are halachic guidelines for it. So certain things, there is an official recipe. But here there's no official recipe. And since there's no official recipe, so just help yourself to some gold. right? You're walking away with it, and nobody's like, wow, okay, there he goes. Whereas normally the halacha is that even tzedakah collectors, they have to have two people involved, right? Even though they don't have to give an account. They don't have to give an account, but there have to be two people who collect the tzedakah, who give the money. Yeah. For the community, not for a personal affair, for the community. Yeah.
For the word vikhu, what other word would it have said? Like an accountant? Like
It doesn't say why do they have to say they take it at all? It could say v'yasu. V'yasu mehazav. They should make it out of the gold. Why do you even need the word they? What's the Torah emphasizing? Good question. What's the Torah emphasizing? Putting in the word they shall take it. What do you need that word for? What do you need that word they shall take it? Okay. Again, I just want to go back to the point that Blake was asking before, because this is an important question. With personal experience, you find so much. Sometimes you walk into a building, or and your mood changes just by where you are. And you should know. I give you a piece of advice: when you're married to Mitzvah Hashem and you're looking to buy a home, you may find the dream home, right? Which is in your budget. And it's got the right size. There's a private little office, and the kitchen is gorgeous, everything else. And your wife says, I don't like it. And it's exactly logically exactly what you like. It fits logically, and your wife says, I don't like it. Don't fight with that, gentlemen, because if you force her, so you're going to be an unhappy person. Why doesn't she like it? She doesn't know why she doesn't like it. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. She doesn't like it. So if she says there's a specific thing, there's something specific about it. She says, well, we don't have I need an extra shower room. We'll put one in over here. We'll build another. Oh, okay. Will you, for sure? Yeah, okay. Yeah. But if she just says, I don't know, something about it, I don't like it. And by the way, another thing that you have to be very careful, she'll try to give you a reason, and you're going to chop up her reason. You're going to logically tell her that's not a valid reason. The only reason she's giving reasons is because you're asking for reasons. She doesn't know herself why, and she doesn't have to know herself. That's part of the prerogative of being a woman. You don't have to know why. She feels it, she senses it, she doesn't like it, leave it. Leave it. She doesn't have to. It's not going to be good. She doesn't like it. Why? Something about it. It could be the lighting comes in from the wrong direction. It could be she's sometimes women have such an accurate intuition. It could be she caught a glance of one of the neighbors, and she senses that this isn't going to be a good combination. Doesn't matter. Don't force it. And sometimes she just doesn't like the layout. It's something about the layout that's bothering her. She doesn't have to be able to define it. And the environment is conducive. When you go to a ballpark, people talk about an energy. There's an energy, right? The crowd energy. What does that mean? It's just a bunch of people like us. But when there are 50,000 people in the stands, there's an energy there. There's an environment there. There's an atmosphere there. Same thing when you go to Hasidic Tish. I don't know if you guys ever been to a Tish. If you go I've been to a Tish once. One time I walked into a Tish, I was mesmerized. Like, whoa, something's happening here. There's something here. I was mesmerized. I haven't been back since. Right? Only because I'm tired on Friday nights. But and I'm not near any Tishes. But there's something, the environment, atmosphere, it's more than what we think. The Rambam says a man is affected by his society. You see people, when the society around you, people around you are learning Daf Yomi, so a man likely to go to a Daf Yomi shir. People around you go to a casino, but a man's likely to go to a casino. That's what happens. Those are what people do. Yeah, somebody had a question. Yeah, go ahead.
So how does this apply, going back to just trusting people to take the amount of money? How does that apply today? I don't see
No,
that.
today we don't. Today, communal charity collectors, it has to be
Not
done.
Not charity.
What's that?
Is this specifically?
This is specific only at the time of the Mishkan. This was the Mishkan where people donated the raw materials, and then the people designing the clothing and everything else, the artisans who were chosen to design it, so they were not accountable.
doesn't apply.
But there's no such thing nowadays as not accountable. To the contrary, if somebody, even something simple like somebody borrowing money from you, if I come over and borrow $10, we have to write an IOU. Because if we don't, you're creating a stumbling block. If I borrow $10 from you and we don't have any witnesses, unless you have witnesses. If you don't have any witnesses and we didn't write an IOU, and then you come over to me and ask me for money, I say, no, I don't owe you any money. So now I'm sinning, and you've sinned by putting me by creating what's called a stumbling block. Okay. See ya.